Mums with Hustle podcast, episode 477.
Welcome to the Mums with Hustle podcast, where you'll discover everyday mum entrepreneurs killing it in their industry. Learn the secrets you can replicate to create your own success with your host, Tracy Harris.
In every workplace, whether you're leading a team as a CEO or whether you are working in one as an employee or as a contractor, there really are two types of individuals, and these are people that are followers and people that are leaders. Now, I'm going to be talking a lot about leaders and followers in today's episode, and I want you to note this distinction. When I use the word leaders, I am not talking about job titles, but I am talking about who you are being, your character, your personality, your energy and essence that you bring to the job. It is about your mindset and it is about your approach. So, today we're talking about how to build a team of A+ players. And this is about leadership for CEOs and employees. And I'm going to add in here contractors as well, because if you are working in service of someone, like you're working as a contractor inside of someone's business, you want to be showing up as a leader because, what's that going to do? Well, that's going to increase you retaining, like the chances of you being retained as a contractor and word of mouth referral and all of that. Okay. So this is really important. And I just want to reiterate, when we talk about leadership in this episode, I am not just talking about people that have fancy schmancy job titles. I'm talking about everybody in the workplace. Okay. Everybody has the opportunity to step into the identity of being a leader or a follower. So let's kind of get clear on what is the follower. Well, in a nutshell, the follower is the person that waits for direction. They bring up questions or problems without offering solutions unless prompted. And they operate passively within the business. They're kind of just going along with the flow. Now, if you are someone that has been a follower in the past, or maybe you are a follower at the moment, like maybe that's all that you desire for yourself. That's okay. But if that's not all that you're capable of and it's not feeling fulfilling for you, and you know that you are called to act better because you know better and be better and you love to be an A+ player, then you're going to love this episode. And if you are in the season of either leading a team or building a team for your beautiful online business or your traditional in-person business, and you're going to get a lot out of this episode too, because what I'm going to share with you is my own model for helping everyone in your team to step up into the identity of a leader. And we're going to unpack through the episode why that is wonderful for your company, but also why that is wonderful for those individuals as well. So we talked a little bit about the follower. Well, let's kind of unpack what makes a leader then, right? So the leaders, they're people that do take initiative. They are people that think multiple steps ahead, and they actively contribute to the success and the efficiency of an organization. For you as the CEO and the business owner, you want to foster a team of leaders as early as possible rather than hiring followers, because it is crucial for scaling efficiently. Absolutely. Can you take someone from being a follower into a leader? Yes, you can. Not all people, but yes, you can. However, that is going to take a lot of training and development and mentorship from you. Like, that is a resource. You are a resource pouring into these individuals. So if you want someone that is a bit further along and someone that is operating at their minimum standard as a leader, then maybe that's who you need to go and look for right out of the gate. And I've seen the difference in my experience in hiring over the past 10 years. I can also look back critically at myself when I was an employee, and I can see times where I acted like a follower instead of a leader. And when I think about why was that, for me personally, and it could be very different for you, I'm sure you can find times where you operated like a follower in previous employment versus a leader. I'm sure. Now, that's not to say that I wasn't also a leader in my previous employment. Like, I was actually employed to be a leader in the last couple of years of my professional teaching career. And I received that role because I had been carrying myself as a leader prior to that. But there were times where I behaved like a follower because my identity, like my own self-concept, is the thing that determined if I was a follower or if I was a leader. But not just my own self-concept, which has definitely improved and grown over the years, thanks to personal development, life experience, like becoming a mum, becoming an entrepreneur. Oh my gosh, there's nothing that, offers greater personal development than choosing to create a personal brand and put yourself online and quit your job and really grow a business and show up for it. But yeah, it's been a journey, okay? So I'm not saying this as though I've always been a leader. No, I definitely have not. And when I look back at the times that I was being a follower in any sort of organization, it's largely because of how I saw myself. So as my self-concept improved, I began to shift from follower into being a leader. But also my own knowledge and skill development. Like, leadership is a thing. I talk a lot about leadership in the mastermind. Leadership is a skill. Like, you do need to acquire knowledge around leadership. You do need to become a more effective leader through practicing leadership. Like, you're not just it's not something that people were just born with. I know there's that whole like, oh, he's a natural born leader. She's a natural born leader. Well, maybe to a degree, yes, but there are some things that we need to know and learn and practice. Being a leader is a skill. We can develop it, but it's that skill set and that knowledge set paired with your self-concept and your self-esteem and your self-confidence, your personality, the paradigms that you have operating your habits, your thoughts, your behaviors, how you show up, how you contribute, how you take feedback. All of that is very different when you're comparing someone who's in the identity of a follower to someone who is in the identity of a leader. And if you want a team of leaders, then there are some things that you need to be doing and leading in yourself as a CEO. So how do we begin to develop a team of leaders, right? That's the question. Because as the CEO of your business, you want a team that doesn't just bring problems to you, but you want a team that actively works to solve them. And a large reason for that is because as the CEO, you will become the bottleneck in the business if you don't have people that are operating as leaders. If they're looking to you for absolutely every single thing, then you are going to be the thing that slows everything down. So building the capacity of the individuals in your team to be in the identity of leaders and not followers is crucial to your ability to scale. A high-functioning team understands that leadership is not about titles, but it's about taking ownership and thinking critically. So your role as the CEO, as the leader of the team, is to cultivate this culture. And how you do that is by setting expectations, rewarding initiative, celebrating it, giving examples, and also being courageous enough to give feedback and guidance when individuals aren't operating as leaders. And that can feel really scary for the CEO to be in the position of having to give critical feedback, especially if it's frequent. Like, no one loves that. That's not nice for anybody. In an ideal world, you would just be able to go, oh my gosh, it's gold, yes, and like move on with life. But that's not the reality. So to all the CEOs listening out there, these small business owners, you're the CEO, right? This is your thing. You need to really practice the courage to be disliked, potentially. So if you're a bit of a people pleaser, or if you're someone that is really hesitant to give honest feedback and guide and mentor and lead your team because you don't want to hurt feelings or because you don't want people to think bad of you, or you don't want to be mean if you've got that voice like, oh, it's mean. Or if you're someone that just rolls off, like if it rolls off your tongue, like, oh, I feel bad. Like I used to be that person, feeling bad for everything and over apologizing for everything. But you are the captain of this ship. Like if you are not able to practice courage and letting your people know, like when they've missed the mark, and or when an idea isn't solid or valid or able to be executed, or giving critical feedback, like if you can't do that, then that's your next leadership edge, is working on that and the reasons why that's so hard for you, because that is going to be the ceiling on your business or the death of your business if you can't develop yourself as a leader in that way. So I'm going to give you some key strategies for the business owner, for the CEO, right? Number one, to be able to cultivate this culture of leadership amongst your team, whether it's just one individual that you have at the moment, or maybe you've got 20. I don't know. But the first thing that you need to do, this is where we grab the pen and paper. The first thing that you need to do is set clear expectations. Like you need to have the courage to let your team know that you expect them to be leaders and not followers, that you expect them to come forward, not just with problems, but with proposed solutions, that you expect them to think 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. If that's your expectation, then you need to communicate that. So setting those clear expectations. Number 2 is to encourage thoughtful decision making. So we want to get to a stage where individuals on the team can have autonomy to make decisions within their scope and provide feedback on their reasoning. Now, not everyone in your team is going to be at this leadership level where they can effectively do that. For someone to be able to do that, they really need to understand and translate the vision, the culture, the vibe, all of that. Otherwise, you're going to end up with things that really are not a cultural fit, or whatever. They're not in the budget, or just isn't going to meet the outcomes. And then that has cost you and the business a lot in hours of employing people, but also in like financially in the cost of things. So that is a leadership skill that the individual needs to develop either on their own or with your support. Number 3 is that as the leader yourself, you have to model the behavior. So showing them how you make decisions, or thinking how you think strategically, so that they can mirror that approach. Now, when I was a primary teacher, we used to use a strategy, which is a think aloud strategy. And I do this a lot in my business with the team. I never just say, oh, this is what we're going to do. Or like, oh no, we're not going to do that, blah, blah, blah. I will always go into explaining why, like the rationale, the process for coming to that decision. And sometimes that's really hard for me. I'm just going to say that because I've got this paradigm that I've been trying to shift for years around, Tracy, you're talking too much, or everyone's just waiting for you to shut up. Like, can you be done with the thing that you're saying? Like, yeah, it's boring, or it's long-winded, or whatever. Like, I can have that paradigm running the show, and I have to be really careful of that, because if that kicks in a moment where I'm supposed to be a leader that is modeling the behavior and explaining to people my process for making decisions that do make the most sense and can move the business forward, like, then what am I going to do? I'm just going to silence myself. I'm going to hold back from that teaching and leading moment. So I can't let that negative self-talk hijack and, take the wheel, really. So you need to be able to model that behavior and explicitly teach it or talk it out loud, because that is going to help people develop their own decision-making, like better decision-making. The 4th thing you can do is acknowledge and celebrate leadership thinking. So something that my team does so beautifully in our team meetings, but also inside of our Slack channels, is that they are able to recognize and celebrate other team members who are stepping up with proactive solutions and with independent thinking. Like they recognize that in each other and they'll, say, I just want to shout out this person who did this thing and I really loved that. Like that helped me see opportunities where I could be, like, oh my gosh, I love that. But it's really important for us as leaders to also affirm and let the people on our teams know when we've noticed their leadership thinking. So celebrating that, calling that out. Like just before I jumped on and recorded this podcast, I celebrated and acknowledged someone in our team channel that has been demonstrating this. And I also sent another individual on the team a private message letting them know of a time that they did this just a couple of days ago, and it was so brilliant. And then an opportunity where they could have done this, but they missed it just this morning. And so I taught out loud. I used that teach out loud strategy. And her response to having me message her and give her that opportunity to reflect and do better was the response that you would expect from a leader. She was so happy. She was dropping those queen emojis, saying, I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. And you know what, Tracy? Thank you for telling me this, because as soon as I sent that message this morning, really just coming to you with an opportunity, but presenting zero solutions and leaving it to you to do all the thinking there, I had an idea, Tracy, and I didn't put it forward. And as soon as I sent the message, I was like, oh, I really should be doing this. And so she was able to recognize that in herself, and we were able to have a little bit of a conversation about that, okay, so what's the reason? Like, what's the self-talk? What's the worst case scenario? You share your idea or your methodology or your thinking or your plan or whatever, and what? It gets rejected? So what? Who cares? What is going to happen? Are you going to tell yourself my ideas aren't valid? My creativity isn't appreciated here? Do you have a paradigm that'll kick in around, I'm always rejected. I'm not smart enough. Like, what is that going to do? That's going to push you into a response that likely shuts you down from contributing ideas in the future. That is not going to be helpful to you, to the employee, like in their performance, or to the business, or to the relationship and the dynamic within the team, or with the employee and the CEO. So we talked a little bit about that, because that's an opportunity for her to identify what that block was and how she can go and take some steps to dismantle that paradigm and put something else there that's more helpful. So we want to celebrate leadership thinking. Number 5 is to create a culture of ownership. We want to make it clear that everyone in the company plays a role in driving it forward, not just people with leadership titles, not just people in management, not just the CEO. We want to create a culture of ownership, because everybody matters. It's like if the business is one body, then individuals are the body parts. It all matters. We're all making up the whole. And number 6, for our CEOs out there, I kind of touched on this. You need to be confident in giving honest feedback. You've got to have the courage, because the truth is not every idea that anyone puts forward is going to align with the vision. You hold the vision. They don't. Your team does not necessarily know all of the ins and outs. As the leader of your company, you are thinking not just 3 steps ahead. You're thinking 3 years ahead, 10 years ahead. Like, you're thinking way further down the line. That's why you're the visionary and the CEO. And so it's very natural that people are going to come forward with ideas and suggestions that don't cut the mustard every single time. And you've got to have the courage and the confidence to say no when necessary, and not feel pressured to just approve things because of your people-pleasing nature. You cannot operate like that. So the downside of that is that you are not in control of anyone's response, not just in your team, but in your life. You are not in control of other people's behavior or their response or the narrative that they choose to take on about you or work. What's the worst case scenario? I don't know, maybe they won't like you. Maybe they're going to think you're mean or you don't appreciate them. And it's not about that at all. Like, you can't control the narrative because you know that it's about choosing the best decision for the business. It's not personal. It's about choosing the best decision for the business. And at the end of the day, it's the business that enables everybody on the team to have that employment, to have that beautiful career. It's about everybody moving forward together. So, that's been the hardest thing for me, is really relinquishing control of how other people may or may not receive feedback, and just going in and giving the feedback and having the talk, doing the tough thing, eating the frog, as Brian Tracy would say. So I'm going to share with you now the RISE model for leaders. This is something that I have taught to my team, and it's something that I wanted to share with all of you here on the podcast. So you can write this down, but the RISE model is my model. So here you go. Tracy Harris sharing, not gatekeeping with you. Basically, R means recognize. Like, you need your team to be able to recognize, which is them spotting the problem or identifying an opportunity and understanding why that thing matters. So when they're going to come to you from this day forward, they're coming to you following the RISE method independently. They're coming to you in this structure. So they're going to come and they're going to say, I've identified this issue. Or they're going to come and they're going to say, oh my gosh, we've got our next event happening, blah, blah, blah. Or we've got our next Q&A call happening inside of the membership. And I spot this opportunity. Now, most people will just leave it there. They'll just leave it. They'll be like, oh, and you'll be like, oh, thank you so much. But what am I supposed to do with this? Like, thank you for giving me more stuff to do today. It becomes a little bit like, it's lovely on one hand, but it's kind of frustrating on another, because what you want them to do is move into step 2, which is I, the letter I for investigate, right? So you want them to investigate and gather for you some relevant information, considering different perspectives. You want them to practice that flex before they just come to you. And you want them to assess possible solutions. And then you're going to move into step 3, which is where they suggesting and recommending or proposing well thought out solutions with clear reasoning. So, this would be them coming forward and saying, so this is what I suggest, or I looked through the meeting notes and this is what came up, or these are the ideas of your members and blah, blah, blah. So I suggest that we do this because, listing some reasons why you think that that's effective, like taking it to that next level. And then 4th and finally is being able to execute it. So taking responsibility for implementing the solution or the idea. Or if the idea didn't get past the CEO or whoever you're reporting to straight away, then you're going to take responsibility, or the individual is going to take responsibility for refining the solution and coming back with an alternative, ensuring that the next one does move forward. So that's the RISE method. Recognize, investigate, suggest, execute. Because if every team member is following the RISE model, decision making is just going to become so much faster, and a business is going to run so much smoother with a proactive team rather than one that relies on leadership for every single decision, thought, next best step. So I shared this year that one of my big focuses in the business to, really scale, like we're a multi-million-dollar digital business. And I mean, that's phenomenal. But I have plans to scale this. And so I know that the thing to scale a business is systems, and even systematizing leadership within the team. That's part of it. Like, we are not going to get to our company goals with a team of followers, but we will with a team of leaders. So I've got to create some kind of leadership system, and that's what RISE is. And I've got to make sure that everyone on the team understands it in its theory, in its application, and as an expectation moving forward. So there you go, my friends. I hope that this was helpful for those of you that are business owners and CEOs. Creating your team of A+ players from the beginning means setting clear expectations and empowering your employees or your contractors to step up and take ownership. And for those of you that are employees or contractors, the fastest way to increasing your business or to having career growth for yourself and recognition is by demonstrating leadership thinking and shifting out of being a follower into being a leader and making, well, either your manager's life or the CEO's life easier by bringing solutions and action steps and not just questions or even just ideas. It's like taking it through to the next steps. And just understanding that not every idea is going to be accepted. And that's okay, because great leaders, both CEOs and employees, know that leadership is not about being liked or being popular. It is about integrity, which is one of our company values here, which essentially means making the right decisions for the business and not letting your own agenda get in the way of that. The key to success is taking ownership. It is thinking ahead. It is being resilient in the face of feedback or rejection, whatever word you choose to use there. And when the entire organization is operating with this mindset, their business is going to scale faster, work environments become more productive and more positive, and individuals thrive in their careers. So yeah, leadership, it's not just about a title. It is a way of thinking, and it is a complete way of being and operating and personality. So I hope that whether you are an employee or whether you are the business owner and the CEO, that this episode was really helpful to you. And if you loved it, please subscribe to the Mums with Hustle podcast and leave me a review on Apple Podcasts. I would just be so grateful for that. It gets the podcast out and known and discovered by more people just like yourself, so that they can access this high quality education and training and inspiration also to move themselves forward in creating their freedom-filled business and their life by design. So thank you in advance for those that are heading over to leave a review or sharing on Instagram and tagging me at Mums with Hustle. I have so many more beautiful episodes coming for you. So stay tuned. And if you want to work with me as a mentor, either one-on-one, if you are a seasoned entrepreneur, or inside of one of my business programs, you can just simply email and you can inquire. Let us know what stage of business you feel that you're at, and we can let you know what your next best step is, because I've got a few different ways that we can work together in 2025. So I'd love to hear from you. Just email hello@mumswithhustle.com. All right. Until next week, my friends, I'm going to love you and leave you. Stay happy in your hustle. It doesn't have to be hideous. Your hustle is yours by design. Take care.